There's a very simple, somewhat cliche line that almost perfectly encapsulates the meaning of the indomitable human spirit. You hear it in shocking sport upsets. Reflections upon a lost fight. Any instance one man outperforms another, even when seemingly every metric of skill and circumstance points in the favor of the predetermined victor. There seems to be a very simple, all-encompassing win condition in life: passion. The other guy just wanted it more. This is, as we call, adrenaline, fight or flight, hysterical strength, or as the internet has poetically labeled it over the past few years, the indomitable human spirit. Sort of a rallying phrase, a unification of man. We bicker and fight and politic and hiss and bark, but when push comes to shove and it's man versus Martian for the ownership of Earth, we share that. We share a spirit. It fills me with joy to unify under that. And one of my favorite things to spot in fiction is a portrayal of that spirit. I love it when fiction shows that the human spirit, it's simply... Speaking of the unification of man, is one of those rare pieces of art that seemingly the entire Western world is invested in. I need not preach to the choir, nor stoke the oversaturated flame of praise that is ablaze, but I include this as a warning to those few not yet indoctrinated. Go and watch is not overrated. It is definitely worth the hype, and it is awesome. I love Invincible. It didn't do the thing that time.
You were just overdoing it.
Overdoing it. If there's a problem to be had with Invincible, it's this very strange character choice. Sometimes seemingly an excuse for bad power scaling or cover up for plot holes. There's this ever-present theme of Mark holding back. It is infuriating, to say the least. Mark is one of Earth's greatest weapons, especially after his training with Cecil, and he still just kinda gets his butt whooped. And the explanation is always that forsaken sentence: he's holding back. And the question is always kinda just why? I understand his moral code and how he stands against killing under any circumstances, but at some point, you're not being very responsible of your powers, of your position as a protector of Earth. Yes, remaining conscious and weary of your actions is your responsibility, but so is actually taking care of business as you are capable. The show will leave you constantly wishing you could remind Mark how high the stakes are, and how powerful he in fact is, constantly hoping he'll finally let loose and let raw, primal strength take over. But still, Galactus could have his jaw surrounding Earth, and it feels like Mark would find a reason to hesitate and pull his punches. You get slight glimpses of this dream coming true, but there's still an itch to scratch, a craving to satisfy, a Pop-Tart for the toaster. Before Mark stands the final boss of the Viltrumites, the enforcer of epic proportions Anissa promised he would face. Not only the strongest he's faced so far, but also the furthest removed from reason, from diplomacy, from humanity. He cares not of reaching a peaceful resolution. He cares not of the plan he's meant to carry out or the recruitment deal he's meant to close. He wants blood. This is Tiger versus Baby Panda, Gorilla versus Small Victorian Child, 2011 Tom Brady versus 1981 Eli Manning, 1996 Michael Jordan versus 2004 Bronny James. Not only are the odds further stacked against Mark than usual, but he was without any choice to lose. This is beyond a fight or a few lives lost. This will literally determine the fate of his planet. Mark is tossed through buildings, across the skyline, eating punches and feeling how weak he is next to Conquest. It's hardly even a fight. Every moment removed from pure domination is a deliberate choice of Conquest to provide him entertainment. It is no contest. But something finally happens. Mark finally scratches the itch. Mark finally uses to his advantage the single aspect he has over Conquest. He uses the lone advantage his crossbred lineage grants him. He not only has the strength, the resolve, and the pure power of a Viltrumite, but the spirit of man that has been holding him back all this time. His humane sense of empathy finally transforms into adrenaline-driven, pure rage. And by the indomitable spirit of man, Conquest is defeated. Humanity is incredible. Though not as popular or obvious of an example, I think this theme of Mark is also shown in Season 1 and is an underlying theme of the show. When Omni-Man is beating the living daylights out of Mark, not only physically but verbally destroying him, when Mark has been betrayed by his father and told his entire perception of him is fabricated, he still clings on. He still clings on to his attachment to his father. He still holds attachment to his world and the people who inhabit it. He sits there, another hard punch or two from death, still refusing to turn back on humanity, still refusing to give up on what and who he loves. That is an indomitable spirit. That is humanity. If you've never played Asura's Wrath, which I totally recommend by the way, really all you need to know is that Asura was heavily betrayed. Like wife murdered, daughter stolen, framed for murder, and banished 12,000 years kind of betrayed. And when you look past the surface level, it's a beautiful tale of tragedy and a betrayal of the lesser powerful, of the hypocrisy of killing many to save few, of gods consumed by the joy of power. It's genuinely an incredible story, but it's almost comical sometimes. It seems like every problem or unlikely victory Asura faces, his solution or strategy is not to train, it is not to become more powerful or think of a way around it. It's to come back even angrier. It doesn't matter if every single other metric is up against Asura. As long as he clings on to his passion and his anger, he'll end up winning. Wyzen is the first real battle he fights after cheating death through, you guessed it, pure passion. And Wyzen is quite literally floating in space, towering over the earth. Think about that for just a second. An essentially newly reincarnated man, thousands of years of training and energy harvesting behind, is an ant being crushed by Wyzen's finger. You might think, maybe he has some sort of plan. There's no way a human-sized god can even begin to face something of this size, this pure power, in a genuine matchup. He has to have some secret weapon, some trick up his sleeve. Alas, it is no secret. It is no trick. Punches Wyzen's finger really hard, and he wins. I distinctly remember when I reached this part in the game. As Wyzen transformed and posted up like Galactus in space, I asked my friend who had already played the game how he will possibly win. He simply said, "He's really angry." I just kind of chuckled and assumed he didn't want to spoil the story, and that Asura would scamper somewhere and fly a spaceship into his eye, or maybe die yet again and realize he's powerless against his once equals. But no, he really was just really angry. Even though it's a little dumb, albeit awesome, it's also beautiful in a way. Yes, I know Asura is a cyborg demigod thing, and I know he's far from human, but it seems to me like a fantasy of man. Across thousands and thousands of years, despite all odds and against all logic, Asura craves his wife's vengeance and his daughter's rescue. He wants nothing more than to save his child, and it consumes his mind to the point of physical demonization. This is real life. Of course, without the rebirths and mystical beings and magic and sorcery, but the journey of Asura is merely an exaggeration of a realistic man seeking justice for his family. Perhaps the wrath of Asura isn't simply a cop-out, one-size-fits-all situation to any problem. No, it's an application and exaggeration of the genuine spirit of mankind, of parenthood. This is something I find very inspiring about Japanese art. And it's the same reason I despised it a few years ago. Almost everything has this spirit of man, this exaggeration of what we really are. It's so extremely inspiring. Goku, guts.
That man's invincible.
Asura, and countless other examples. They struggle and they lose and they suffer, but by passion and by love and by anger and by the fight or flight response of their body, they prevail. They struggle and they prevail because that's what humanity does. It struggles and it prevails by the power of passion and the indomitability of the human spirit.